Hey, this is Kevin from Toying Around. We are back with the iconic comic book artist, creator, longtime toy maker, Mr. Todd McFarlane. How are you doing today?
Good, Kevin. How you doing out there?
Fantastic,
Yeah,
fantastic. We're going to talk about some New York Comic Con stuff today that McFarlane Toys kind of put out, and other products. I couldn't make it this year,
yeah.
but
Where
yeah,
were you?
it was my daughter's birthday, so
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it was hard
Okay,
to make that case.
that's okay. Priorities.
Yes, exactly. One of the first things that pre-orders went up was the Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. A couple of new figures. Can you talk about like how these look and what's new? What's going on with these figures?
I think there's the Batman. There's the Superman figure. There's Dark Side. Maybe I think is.
There's a Nightmare Batman.
Oh yeah, the Nightmare Batman and the Wonder Woman. I think right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I got to keep them all. Like I got all these plastic children in my head, and I've got to keep them all straight. Yeah. Uh, uh, Sometimes the ones that we do we do I mean, we do stuff that's single pack, 2 packs, 3 packs, 8 packs, 4 pack, whatever. And we just sort of mix and match, try to put combos together that might make sense at a price that hopefully makes sense and appeals to a certain group that either sort of want to get all like one-stop shopping, if you will, some of the bigger
Mhm.
packages, or they just happen to like that theme itself, and they go, "Oh man, I can go there." So, I guess you would call it sort of in other sort of marketing lingo, your sort of value packs, if you will. You take things that on their own they're all strong figures, I think,
Mhm.
and then you just sort of mix and match them together, and it becomes its own thing. And you try to, if you're using figures that you've used before, you try to do some sort of change so that's not the exact same thing, uh, being bought exactly the same way. Look at to some extent Hershey. There are lots of people do it, but let's use Hershey chocolate, right? They they
Okay.
they take their product, pretty much the same product. I guess you can get the white version too. But you got chocolate, and I guess you get dark chocolate, and then they just put it in different shapes, right? You get the small chocolate bar, the mini chocolate bar. They got the Halloween pieces. If it's Valentine's, they put it in a heart shape, right? So you're 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 trying to sort of keep giving people what they're comfortable consuming,
Mhm.
but trying to just put it in a package format that may make more sense to one group of people than another. So, uh,
Is that an analogy based on Halloween just being a few days ago? Uh,
no,
no.
no, no, no. I've no, I've said it before that I've said it for decades that one of the reasons I think McFarlane Toys, from its inception, uh, has been able to exist,
Mhm.
especially at the beginning when I didn't have any brand names or anything. I just had Spawn, right? Is I was given more plastic at the same price, right? And so again, to use the Hershey analogy, I don't know. You can have a chocolate bar like this for a buck, or you can have a chocolate bar this big for a buck. I don't know. Take the bigger chocolate bar, right? So one of the things that I've said to people: never underestimate plastic, right? The amount of plastic you put in a box or a package relative to its price, it will matter. So for years, I didn't have Marvel, DC, Star Wars, GI Joe, I didn't have any of that, right?
Mhm.
I just was able to try to build a better mousetrap, which is make a better looking toy, and then make it slightly bigger, so there's more plastic. And then, as you know, I've done plenty of figures over the years that are like really big. The ones that almost feel like they're busting out of the clamshell, right?
Right.
Or the blister card, whatever you want to call it. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you know nothing about what the brand is at that point, and a lot of times it was just Spawn. You do recognize that if you get, like, that much plastic compared to the toy next to you, which is your competitor, and they only give you that much plastic for the same price, then the only thing I can't beat is brand, right? Like, if you want a Captain America figure and I don't have a Captain America figure, it doesn't matter how small it is, right? I don't have Captain America. But if you're looking for value, and you're looking for a value play and a value buy,
Mhm.
for your kid and or yourself, you're going, man, that's kind of cool. Shoot, my kid likes robots, right? I can get the small little transformer, or I can get this big McFarlane thing. I don't even know what it is, but it's a lot of value for it. So we've been able to survive using that sort of simple analogy. Just as I've said before, build a Cadillac and sell it at Ford Motor prices.
I recall, I think it was a video you did with Pixel Dan at Toy Fair, the last one, and I think that was one of the, I think like the business mindset that you walk through where like there is a price, kind of like a product or a price range for when you're walking down an aisle to to have something in every range for someone to pick up, which I thought, it's a great way to cast a cast a wider or like provide a wider range of like, different
Right,
lines
and
for
going
people.
back to Hershey chocolate bars, they do it.
Right,
Right? You can like, again, you can buy, like, 18 different sizes of it, and it's kind of the same product, but you just you what you have to do is give, I think, the consumer options,
right,
right? And let them, don't assume that whatever it is that you're making is the right answer for anything, or that anybody's a completist first. So all I can do, and all we've been doing for 30 plus years at my company, is just give a range. I mean, we've done everything from $300, $400, $500 statues down to 299 items, $2.99, right?
right.
So there's, again, there's this big thing, and then you usually find out, Kevin, when you get the sales data of whether there's an appetite for any of it, and then you just move accordingly.
You mentioned, when you first started, you didn't have that many licenses, and that thing, and then it's kind of grown out now. I
Yeah.
want to touch on this real quick. These Marvel figures
Collectible,
and
yeah, we just call them collectible figures.
yeah, I mean all of them. How big is that? Like, how is that in terms of like maybe like a milestone for the company to do like another cool like all these iconic covers and imagery to be able to add that into the lineup in 2024.
So there's a couple components there, right? Just so strictly from a business point of view, right? If you can get your hooks into any of the what I would call sort of triple A brand,
Right.
you try to do it. I would argue that McFarlane Toys is basically a latecomer to it. Took us, forever to get a piece of DC. We just recently got a piece of Marvel.
Right.
And so, but forever, when I was going to Toy Fair, it seemed like everybody in that room at that convention had one or not, or both of those pieces and Star Wars. And I was like, man, I guess I'm the only guy. But we've been able to crack the code on a couple of them on the so you want those pieces just from a business point of view because they're strong brands, right?
Hmm.
Always sort of hook your wagon to horses that are really big and really fast. Um, on a creative end, having worked myself at Marvel Comics,
Right.
which is where I made my career, the sort of concept of being able to do your own artwork. I mean, it probably sounds vain, so yeah, I'll leave it where it's at, right? But I don't know. Disney had places named after him, and Ted Turner used to have Turner Broadcasting, and you
Right.
know there's a Trump Tower. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just an ego like that. But in this case, it was like, what if I could take some of that two-dimensional artwork and convert it to 3D form. Uh, and it would, in its simplest sort of iteration, it would be, you know, Todd McFarlane, the artist, who did the drawing, doing and helping guide the 3D drawing, and then producing it at a company that's also controlled by the original artist, right? So
Right.
McFarlane doing McFarlane at McFarlane Toys, right? So I don't know. It's kind of cool. I mean, again, you know, we'll do a smattering of my artwork, but it's not just the covers. We have access to the comic book library, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that I'm telling my people internally is like, don't just look at covers, because the best drawing that any artist did of a certain character might actually be on the inside, right? I
Absolutely.
can't say, in all honesty, I can't say that the five best drawings I ever did of Spider-Man were on the cover, right? Because I did dozens and dozens of drawings in every book that I did. So I'd say that some of your best artwork is on the interiors. And if we're just gonna do kind of the coolest looking stuff, then we got to start going into the interiors too.
It's some of the most influential, like, Marvel art out there, your runs on Spider-Man, so I th like you said, it's really cool, it's kind of gone, like, a full circle, your artwork, and then now the toy company making, the collectibles of your work, so, that's really cool to see.
Like let's take an example. We did Deadpool by Rob Liefeld,
Mhm.
right? One of my you know good friends, and you know helped sort of co-found Image Comic Books years
Right.
ago. So we used the pose that was on the cover of the book that everybody knows is like the first appearance of Deadpool, right? And it's iconic and everybody knows it, whatever else. But if I was to go up to Rob and say, Rob, what was the coolest drawing you ever did of Deadpool? I don't know that he would actually he would point to that one. He would go, "Oh man, Todd, you should have seen this two-page spread I did like 8 issues later, or even 2 years ago, like whatever." Right? So at some point, I need to find that drawing. Then I need to find his the one that he considers to be his best, right? Or Jim Lee's best Wolverine drawing might have been on an interior page, or Frank Miller's best a Daredevil might have been in an interior page. But when you have access to 60-year library, it can be a little overwhelming on like which ones you end up picking, right? Because no matter what you pick, there's always going to be somebody, even internally myself, going, "Man, we should have picked that one too," right? But yeah, you can only do so many.
I don't know if you can answer this. Is this just like, your foot in the door with the Marvel stuff? Is this gonna lead to different style of products? Or just focusing on this at the moment?
Yeah, no, we're gonna focus on this right now, and we got a little bit of range that we can play with, a little with pricing and a little bit of size. Um, but you know, a little bit like what happened when we first were doing the DC multiverse. You have to sort of walk before you can run with these big companies, because you know my company McFarlane Toys is the unknown, right? I mean we did, and but what you try to do, you try to ingratiate yourself by doing a good job, and and not being a pain in the ass to them, and getting good sales data, right?
Right.
It shows that the product that you're making is something that the fans want to consume. And if you do all that, then at some point you get brownie points on their, I think, internal score sheet, right?
Okay.
They would never admit it, but I mean they keep score, right? I mean I do the same with the people that I deal business with. You want to hang out with people, do good work, and that uh, you know, make high quality product that aren't pains in the ass, right? And so we'll see. Check back in 5 years and see whether I'm doing more or less. Probably predicated upon the results and our own sort of corporate actions.
Yeah, I love the whole, business side of the toys too. I find, like, that kinda stuff very
Yeah,
interesting too, so that's good to hear.
it's the other side of the curtain that interestingly, when you're sort of dealing with the internet and the fan base, that there are machinations that go on behind the
Oh,
doors,
right.
closed doors, that that the fans will never know about, good, bad, or indifferent.
Mhm.
And that there are times where you get told what to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You don't get to tell them; they tell you. And just even the process of how you go about selection, and there's a lot of do's and don'ts, right? I mean, again, they just don't sign you up and say, yeah, do whatever you want, and don't care about it. Every person that you get a license from has, you know their brand that they have to protect themselves, and
For sure.
they have to make those choices, and I'm not obligated to have to agree with those choices. I just have to accept, which I do, that they're the client. The client's always right, and oh, by the way, they own the property, so of course they're always right.
Right.
So what our job is on a toy side, and it's not unique to me. You can talk to 10 other people who have licenses. Your goal is to put out as high a quality of product that will get approved by the people that you have a license with, right? Because if they don't approve it, you never get to make it. So,
Right. I think, like, maybe the most casual collector will just look at toys a lot of the time and just question, like, "Oh, why did they do this?" or "Why don't they have this character?"
yeah,
Which is
that's true.
like, there's nothing wrong with that
Right.
because not everyone wants to hear all the behind the scenes stuff like I do, but that's why I think, conversations like this with people, like yourself who,
Yeah.
on the business
I
end
think, Kevin,
get
that
that
I
info.
think you're right. The behind the scenes stuff, it's kind of dry and boring. Um, and so I usually try to be a little more succinct about it instead of,
Mhm.
there's no sense going into detail. Just, your succinct one is, uh, there are reasons for it, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not that, when we were making NBA figures years ago, people were clamoring for us to make Michael Jordan, right?
Right.
And so I don't know. I guess there's to me there was only like two options. Either Todd, the sports fanatic, forgot or didn't know that Michael Jordan played basketball, or there were other reasons,
Right.
and those reasons aren't worth sort of airing to the public. There's no good reason to air it out, right?
Mhm.
So you just you try and you try and you try, and sometimes you can accomplish that stuff, and sometimes you can't. And then even Kevin, even once you get in the door and you get a license, sometimes the answer to what I would like to do is no, right?
Mhm.
But I'm stubborn, and then I have to, like I said, I have to walk before I can run with them, and then I not only do I have to prove my salt as a company, but then I also can be a bit of a pest, and I just ask like every 6 months, and then sometimes after a couple of years, they finally go, "Yeah, fine," right?
Right.
So you just have to be a little persistent too, that you don't take the first no as being an eternal no, right? You just keep nudging them and showing them data and showing them information and making doing an education, until they sort of either go, oh, okay, that makes sense, or you just wear them out. Either one of them, however you get to yes. So
Persistence. I dig
yes.
it.
Yeah, oh no, I look at there's been some where I chased for like 5 years before they finally said yes, right? You just go, man, that was a long way, but we're here. So let's go and have fun now.
Well, another thing you had fun with, and I didn't say this yet. Last time we spoke was about the Kickstarter. This thing was tremendously successful. First of all, congratulations.
Yep.
But secondly, when we last spoke, this was in production, or you're making units already, getting them ready. Um,
Yeah, we were molding the pieces because regardless of whether it was going to be the silver, the black, or the blue, a lot of the pieces, especially the body and stuff, there were some common parts that we could basically start baking some of the cookie parts. Yep.
right. Well, it's super cool. You set another Kickstarter record with this one. Just curious, since we're here, do you have any Are there any updates, or is everything still in?
Yeah. So there's my gun. I got one of each. I just
Right.
got I just got the silver ones downstairs, and the black one. I just showed those because I've always been showing the blue one. So what we've done is, and I'll probably be posting an update here in the next day or two. That all the orders are in. The factory is making them, but they're going to be sort of baking them and then shipping them out in waves, right? So, but my goal was to see if I could start shipping stuff out by by the end of this year, right? Given that from the time the Kickstarter ended, uh, and we're hoping, and I'm going, even if it's 10, even if it's 10 factory, I've got to get I got to meet this deadline. We are way ahead of that. So
Okay.
the first container of toys, and that's a lot of toys. The first container of toys has already left the factory.
Whoa.
Um, so I think that went out last Wednesday, right? So now so it should have hit Hong Kong probably by the weekend, and then usually about a day or so to get on the boat. So they've left the factory. So depending on your definition of beginning shipping, uh, and whatever. So now what's going to happen? They're going to be on a boat, the first container, and the vast majority of those are going to come to North America. We do have international sales, but we have the majority of them here in North America. So I wanted to bring the majority of them here. So usually it takes 3 weeks for a boat to cross the ocean.
Okay.
That's sort of the average time, and then about a week to unload and process and do all the stuff you have to in a warehouse. So another month. So we're hoping. I mean, they. I was going to check a little bit later today whether they got loaded on the boat. But if that's true, then again we're technically shipping, right? We're just shipping them towards North America. But
Mhm.
they should be able to then land here beginning of December, and so that first batch will get out, like we'll turn those around ASAP. So the first batch should get out pretty early in December. And then
Wow.
what end up happening is that as they finish other product, they'll just then, stack that up, put it in a container, put it on the boat, ship it over, and then eventually we put it into the system that basically can get to your door, right? Um, so we're tracking about where we want it to be, which is we wanted to get some shipping done before the new year. That definitely is going to happen. And so the question is, how much of that gets out the doors towards the consumer by the end of the year? Should be a, at worst about 80% of it.
Do you think this would be your method going forward? If you, I'm assuming you're going to be doing more Kickstarters. Like, is this the preferred method? Was it more well received this way that it's so
Yeah,
close
yeah.
shipping to the
It's a
end
good.
date?
You're asking good questions because one of the things that was there was people were a little bit uh, frustrated, agitated. I don't know what word to use. That there weren't more options, right? Like if
Mm,
you looked at our first Kickstarter, we had a bunch more options, right? um, to do and I kept saying in the comments to do what I was trying to do, which is to do this and deliver it to you ASAP.
right.
I have to basically make some predetermined calls now that can't be undone later. Because if I try to add anything into the equation and say, oh, hey, I want a little bit of chocolate chips in those cookies, they're going to go, "Well, we baked a bunch, Todd. Like we can't insert the chocolate chips, so we would have to literally rebake them, right?
Right.
Um, and to rebake them, just like making toys, then it would slow down the process again. So to me, I thought that there would be a value in delivering it in record time,
Mm,
right? I kept saying that in some of my videos. I'm not looking to set a record for sales or dollars or backers. I'm looking to set a record for how fast I can manufacture something that's halfway around the world and get it to you, right? And I think we will set that record. I mean, if it was a T-shirt or a hat, like that's easy, right? But making a toy, that's difficult because there's so many pieces and parts in the packaging, and everything goes with it.
of course.
But it was weird that oddly it seemed, and I'll have to recalculate it, that I think that the fans would have rather have waited longer but had more options. Uh, like
Really?
like the last go round, right? And it was like, and then some people were like, "Well, it's not working out, Todd, because you the last one made 3 million, this one only made 2 million." Weird that a failure of 2 million. Most people on Kickstarter would love to have that failure. Um, but the answer was it wasn't built to maximize dollars. It was
Okay.
built to maximize speed of delivery,
Right.
which I knew, and internally we knew was going to hurt the dollar count because we weren't going to be able to offer as many options because it gets complicated and it slows down the delivery mechanism. But that was the direction we decided to go. What we'll probably do is when it's all said and done is just evaluate the pros and cons of both of them,
Okay.
and then sort of move forward accordingly. The great thing about doing any experiment is that you get to collect data, and then good, bad, or indifferent, and then hopefully use that information wisely as you go forward, right?
Right.
So again, once you sort of know where the speed bumps or the potholes are on the road you drive, you tend to swerve away from them, right? Because you go, oh, I gotta veer to the left here because there's a big speed bump, or there's a pothole there. Okay, fine. Running a business is a little bit the same. You invariably, when you do stuff initially, you don't have all the answers, and you're gonna have, you hope you make way more right calls than you do wrong, but
Mhm.
you just say, oh, here's 5 things that worked really well. Let's replicate those the next go round. And here's 5 things that we thought were, didn't live up to what we wanted to or frustrated the fan. Let's stay away from that. So and we'll figure it all out. And again, but here's the thing, Kevin. Here's the thing. I long ago stopped giving the attempt of trying to please everyone, right? And it's not even my goal. This is the
I don't think
piece.
you can.
No, well, you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
So, but it's not even a goal. The goal is to, at the moment you're doing anything, do the best that you can, make the best decisions you can with whatever education you have at that point, and the people in the room at that point,
Mhm.
and then you put it out, and you then have transparency and say, hey, here's the price, here's when it's coming, here's what it is, here's what you get for it. And then at that point, ultimately, everything else is on the consumer to decide if what they see and the information that goes with it is worthwhile for them personally to spend and take home for themselves. Like that's it, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any of that control. So my only control is, do I think that that was high quality? Check. Do I think that was a fair price? Check. Do I think it was a cool figure that we took? Check. Again, I could have a debate about all 3 of those with fandom, right?
Mhm.
That some people go, man, Todd, that was way cooler than I thought, and others will go, man, I thought it was going to be cooler. You can have that debate all the time, but if you're going to run a business, you're going to keep moving forward. You can't you can't worry about the pleasing of every single human being, right? You just do your best, and you have to have confidence that your best will, hopefully, fingers crossed, work. And sometimes it doesn't, but at least you can go to sleep going, "Wow, I did my best." Not, I mean, it's not like if I was playing baseball, which I did yesterday, and I went 0 for 2. It's not like I wasn't trying to hit, right? I did my goddamn best. It's frustrating it didn't work out, but next time. it'll work out a little bit better. But I've said before, Kevin, that I don't really I don't like when you're doing stuff. You just have to like when I put stuff up on Instagram. I just usually it's here's the cover to the next Spawn book, and it's coming out on this day, and it's $2.99. And maybe here's a couple characters that are going to be in it, and it's just almost informational.
Right.
It's almost like doing like a movie trailer. Here's my movie, and here's the trailer. And whether you like it or you don't like it, the movie's made. Once you
Right.
see
That's
the
the
trailer,
product.
the movie's made. And so, what if you like it? Then you, I assume, will maybe go buy a movie ticket and go watch that movie. Or if you're curious about it, if you watch that trailer and you go, nah, doesn't seem very interesting to me, then you don't buy a ticket. But what never happens, no matter what, whether people buy a lot of tickets or they don't, is that they don't reshoot the movie or fix the movie. The movie's in the can. They have to
Mm.
market it. They have to be able to sell it out. Making toys and making comic books and making video, it's sort of the same thing. Once you say, "Hey, here it is for sale," there's no going back. You have to you have to live like giving birth to your artistic babies, right? You don't get to undo it. That's it. That's what they look like.
This might not be the right topic for some of our viewers for the next few minutes, but I am curious, what position do you play in baseball?
Mhm.
Um, who were you rooting for in the World Series? And is there going to be another McFarlane Shohei Otani collectible coming out?
Okay, well, let's go in reverse order. Shohei,
Okay.
of course, right? I mean, when Derek Jeter was popular, when Kobe Bryant was popular, when Tom Brady was popular, like yes, you keep going back to the well on the people that you know you can sell over and over and over. It's like saying, are you going to do another Spider-Man comic book next month? Right? Yeah. Why? Because
Yeah.
people will buy it month in and month out. Right? It's why sometimes people sort of say, John, I think sometimes you make too many Batman figures. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, you made a Batman figure that line, now you're making a Batman figure this line. I go, yeah, but that other one I did yesterday. This is the one I'm doing now is for today. You're saying you don't think there's any Batman fans today, right? Like I sold that previous Batman in February. These are coming out now in April. Are you saying that people walking up the down the aisles of stores are not Batman fans in April? Not
Mm,
only are they Batman fans in April, they're Batman fans every day of April. As a matter of fact, they're Batman fans 365 days a year.
yeah. Not
So,
not just on Tuesdays or something like that,
right.
right? Yeah.
So there are some brands, not a lot, but there are some brands that are called evergreens, which means they're there all the time, right? And you don't walk away from it. So Shohei Otani is sort of gets close to that because he's sort of the face of Major League Baseball right now.
Mhm.
And I could probably just say we're going to do nothing but Shohei Otani and do a good business and sell him. So yes, in the World Series, I hate the Yankees.
Thank you.
Hate the
Thank God.
Yankees, but that was just from when I was a kid and I started following sports. Like about 1971 was when I started sort of becoming really conscious about sports. And I looked and I found all the teams that were the best and all the teams that were good. And then I just said, I'm not going to root for them.
Okay.
So I just go at that point that was like the Lakers and the Celtics and the Cowboys and the Yankees, and I just go, no, I can't do it. So I picked all like the worst teams, and I'm like a complete underdog rooter. Now that means I've had my heart broken hundreds and hundreds of times in my life because I always go for the underdog, and there's a reason why they're the underdog because they're not as good. Um,
Mhm.
but it goes back to when I played college baseball. I,
Okay.
I, I got my schooling paid for. Played at a
Oh,
high
nice.
level, a college, and I never, and it's just my personality. I never wanted to play for the best team. I wanted to beat the best team, or at
Right.
worst, give them a fucking game, right? Because the Giants, the world beaters, they're bullies to me, and I hate bullies. And so I just go, no, let's go and play. And what happens if the game's tied after 7 innings? That team doesn't know how to play when they're tied because they're supposed to do it. Oh, and by the way, they're so much better than us. They have no place to go but down, right? Like they're supposed to beat us. If they beat us and they smoke us, that's what they're supposed to do. They can't
Right.
gain anything today. But what if they don't? Oh man, we can diminish them a little bit. Us, we're supposed to get our heads handed to us. Okay, we can only go up. They can only go down. I always wanted to be on the team that had the option to go up to cause the upset. Uh so I wrote off the Yankees a long time ago. And
Y
part of it too was because when Steinbrenner came and he had all the money, it was like, so what? Like my mom, if you gave her $1 billion to buy every player, could put together a good team. And she doesn't have to be smart or whatever. She could just buy it. So I'm like, no. And then what position I played? I was a little skinny, left-handed bat, and I ran like the wind. Right. I only had two things. I was lefty, and in baseball that matters. And when I played college, I had many scouts because they clocked me right to the point
Okay.
that they'd make me run. I mean, a lot of times the first thing a scout will do is just make you run a 40 or 60-yard dash and clock you. Because if you don't have that portion, then you'd better be 6'4" and hit the crap out of the ball or throw the ball 100 miles an hour. Because like
Right.
if you can't run, all like the thing about speed, the old adage in sports is speed never goes in a slump, right? It's
True.
always there. It never goes away. Um, but when they timed me at the time that I was playing, I was told probably 6, 7 times by 6, 7 different scouts that my speed was faster than anybody that was in the major leagues at that time, right? That
Wow.
was it. I had one, but that was it. That was it. I had one thing, I guess 2 because I was a lefty, but I could run like nobody's business. So that helps you center field. I could catch anything. I could go from first to third on a shank little ball. Like it was good. But I had a mediocre arm. I had a mediocre bat. All the other skilled I had no
Mm.
power. Like what are you talking? Everything else was was diminished. So the one skill wasn't enough to get me to where I was hoping to, which is to play ball.
Well, I think, he still ended up doing pretty well. This is still a lot of fun.
Right, but no, no, but what is true, to bring it back to our interview here, is that the competitive nature that I had at times being the smallest guy on the field, I still would able to play and compete and start against the big boys because I just won 100 miles an hour, right? I ate glass. I just it's part of my DNA, and so all of that. Plus, I had two brothers, and we were always competitive. So once I got into business, none of that changed. It was just a continuation of competition, right? What are they doing? What's my business competition doing that I can either exploit or do and take advantage of that they're not doing? And so the very first gap they gave me was
Mhm.
I knew that the big Fortune 500 toy companies were not going to do product that was being sold to people over the age of 14. That's not their game. That's not their game. Their
Right.
game is sell to kids and their and their moms, right? That was it. And it's like, oh, so there's a gap. And the gap isn't to beat the giants. The gap is to go and fill the spaces that they're not going to. And so they weren't doing, alien toys, or they weren't doing predator toys or the Matrix or whatever we were doing, even music toys or whatever else.
Right.
I was able to find open space, not go head to head with them. I can't beat them head to head per se because they had the big brands and they had the marketing and they had the money and they had the institutions to do it and they were global. I couldn't go up against that. That's a suicide mission. So you find another crack someplace else and you go through those cracks. At least for me, that's what I did. And I've been able to sort of survive for 30 years doing that.
Yeah. Those music and movie maniacs and, like you mentioned, the Matrix stuff, they still look fantastic. Thank you for making some, if you like underdogs, a couple of Blue Jays. You made Vladdy and
Yeah.
Bo Bichette.
I consider because I consider myself an underdog myself. So, right, I'm always going up against big giant companies, right? So, and the goal is, you know, I think sometimes people get the question sort of asked the wrong way. It's like, oh, Todd, you think you can put a dent in them, whatever. That's not the goal. The goal is to put dent into 800-foot giants. The question is, why can't the 800-foot giants get rid of me? Why why can I still exist amongst them? And the answer, quite simple, is that I know what their weaknesses are. And so the blessing and the curse of a giant corporation is their size. They move slow. And so the blessing and the curse of my company is my size. I have the same pros and cons. It's just
Speed.
that it's just
You
that
got your speed.
the pro of my size is that I'm smaller, so I'm nimble. I can move faster, right? Going back to why I was able to survive on the ball field. 'Cause I could just move quicker than anybody else. That's a value. At times, that's a value. And so if you're nimble and being able to sort of turn your business decision, your art decisions, your toy decisions quicker than your competition, that can give you, at times, a bit of an edge.
I wanted to bring this up because you've put out several Batmobiles this year, and
Yep.
sometimes I feel like every day I open Instagram and there's another McFarlane toy kind of announcement. It's so cool. Like there's so many things to see all the time. And here's another Batmobile from Batman and Robin. Um, can you talk a little bit about how, you're able to put out so many vehicles at that scale, at a pretty, like, decent price point? Like, how is that working for the company?
When I first broke into business 3 decades ago, what ended up happening, you went to stores, and this is pre-internet, is that you would have the figures up above, and then you'd have the boxed items down below. That was
Right?
just standard selling at retail. I don't care where you went to, Kmart, Toys R Us, Walmart, whatever. Um, but over time, because of some of the sort of the ebbs and flows of business, they pushed out a lot of the big box stuff. And anything that was really kind of over $30 was like they didn't want it on their shelves. They thought it was too expensive. So fast forward now to 2024, and there's the internet. And so if the retailers don't want it and they don't want the big boxes, there are other ways to get those items to the consumer. And so
Mhm.
we're now not limited by the yeses and the nos of basically the brick and mortar stores. So how can we get a lot of Batman vehicles out? Well, making them. That's what we do. We make toys, and we just basically look at the data of the last vehicle, and it was like, oh, that one sold. Well, I guess let's go do another one. And it go like, oh, that one sold. I guess let's go do another one. I mean, the data will tell us when people don't want them at the sort of the rate and or the price that we're delivering them. So
I think the beauty with Batman is he has so many vehicles that I think you can keep going, and like we said before, not every Batmobile has to be for everyone, but there is probably a Batmobile for every Batman fan, so,
yeah, I
um
think the Batmobile a little bit like Star Trek fans when you go, "Who's your captain?" Right? And you can sort of tell how old somebody is by what their answer is, right?
Mhm.
And when you ask people, like, "What's your favorite Batmobile?" You kinda can tell, like, how old they are. So,
Right.
I'm Batman '66, so, but that's because 'cause I'm an old man, right? So, but my kids don't have the same answer.
And finally, this Batman that was, up for pre-order, Detective Comics 587, and it has the, kinda like the posed cape and the soft goods one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can you talk a little bit about this,
So,
like
I
the
so there's
features?
so yeah, so there's a couple things. One, yeah, as you know, if you've sort of followed my career, I'm a cape guy. I like capes. I think they're cool, right? But I think because I think they're graphic items. When I draw them, I think they should be part of the actual graphic that you're doing. And
Okay.
so I think you can sculpt them in a way so that when they're on your shelf, they just look it just looks good, right?
Right.
And you can put it in a pose that even if you had a good wired cape, it wouldn't really sort of be the exact same,
Right.
because you can get to sharper points and you can do things with it. But we're also getting, I think, really good at the wired capes, and the wired capes are becoming sort of their own articulated piece,
Yeah.
and they're holding really well, and you can put them in some really dynamic sort of pose and stuff. So in this case, it was just like, well, why don't we just give them their cake and eat it too, right? For people who like the wired cake, you can put it on. But if you want to have a showpiece, I think the showpiece plays better if you've got the plastic cape on it because it sort of plays in with the rest of the figure, and you've got a little bit of a base that they're standing on. So this is one of those ones to go back that you just let the consumer decide what they want, right? You give them the options. In this case, all of it's included in one spot. So you have to decide whether you want all that stuff or not. But if you do, and you go, oh man, Todd's going to let me play either to the left or the right, then this could be a package that makes sense to you.
Is the the wired goods or the soft goods, is that, something that's going to be more widespread throughout the line, or is it just like where it works, where it fits, depending on the character and whatnot?
Yeah, I think it's sort of more of like timing, who the character is,
Okay.
and pricing, and we'll sort of do all the look at the what I'm trying to figure out right now is how big can I make a wired cape and it still work, right?
Right.
Because I've made some pretty massive on my own artwork, my own drawing, some pretty massive Batman capes in Batman Year Two, and and a bunch of massive capes in my artwork with Spawn. Right, he's sort of known for it. Right, so can you emulate that with a wired, or it gets too long and the wire is going to start to droop? Where is it? And the answer might be you have to put it thicker at the beginning and then a little bit thinner. I don't know. We're experimenting because it would just be cool to have like a 7-inch figure and a 18-inch cape, right? That actually you could bend any way you want it to. So
Right.
we'll figure it out.
That's great.
But
Hey,
but what the ones we're doing right now are working really extraordinary, I think. I mean, they're just I mean, when you bend it and you let go, there's no bounce back, there's no memory, right? You just bend
mhm.
it and it stays. I mean, you bend it here and it stays, like your fingers. You can just bend it and it stays. Yeah.
Is there any books, anything, fans should look out for? This video is coming out this week. What should people go pick up at the
No,
comic shop?
actually, yeah. Well, I mean, again, the Spawn universe, we're always continuing to expand that. But one of the things I got to do as soon as I finish here is like I got to finish writing a couple books. Um, I I'm not a big proponent of like telling people what's cool and what's not cool, right? I just like show what I'm doing. I get excited about what I'm doing, and give them as much information as possible, and then I let people sort of make their own decisions, right? It's a little bit like recommending movies, right? I could give you my top 5 movies, but if you're a rom-com guy, or you're an animated guy, or you're somebody that, like something different than I like, me giving you my 5 movies and they're all dramas don't make any sense because I'm putting my personality on you. So I rarely try to make recommendations because I don't know what people like to consume themselves, which
Okay.
is going back to the beginning, which is why I just do basically a plastic buffet of everything. You put as many things out there as possible, and you go, hey, here's the buffet, and just like a real buffet, you take your tray, and even though there's 100 options, when you go to it, you only usually put like 5 or 6 on your plate. You don't eat one of everything. You just take what you think personally is yours. So that's it.
Yeah.
I just go, here's my plastic buffet. I got 100 things. Hopefully, you'll find 1 or 2 of these sort of charming enough that you might sort of give us some of your time.
That's fantastic. Everyone watching, make sure you follow Todd on Instagram and also McFarlane Toys. I'll have links in the video description. Todd, these conversations are A, always so much fun, and also B, I think it's great for fans to hear a little bit more about, whatever you can divulge some of the decision making influences that go into the action figures. So thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. And then and at some point, maybe what we'll do is we'll come up with like like an example I can talk about of what happened behind the scene and give you the particulars of it to just go, here's how that one played out, and here's exactly why or why we did or didn't do something. Wouldn't have been my choice, but again, name's God only rhymes with God. I don't get to control the planet, right? So we do the best we can given the circumstances that are in front of us, and then tomorrow becomes another day, and you try it all over again.
Yeah, I would love something like that. That would be cool. Hey, thank you so much for watching the video. I also want to give a special thank you to Todd and everyone over at McFarlane Toys for making this interview possible. If you like the interview, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and comment down below if you want to see more like this. And also, if you're watching through Patreon, I want to say thank you. You get to see this first ad-free. And if you want to be part of Patreon, check out patreon.com/toyingaround. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It lets YouTube know that you like this video and maybe somebody else will also. Thanks for watching and keep toying around. Peace.